Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
Cornerstone Retirement Partners presents Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Corser and Nolan Goslee. Cornerstone Retirement Partners are planning today for the potential of tomorrow.
And welcome into the program. This is Your Course to Retirement, brought to you by the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners. Grand Rapids, your resource for planning, advice, assistance, guidance, and to get that plan for retirement put together, the team from Cornerstone Retirement is here for you, and you can give them a call if you've got any questions or concerns. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. With us today, we have Nolan Goslee. Nolan, we always appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Happy to talk to everybody. We're getting close to the end of summer and school's starting back up, so everybody's probably trying to get their last minute vacations in. I know I am.
Yeah, well, it goes by so quick. It seems like as soon as the 4th of July comes and goes, it's like the end of summer already. So try to pack in the time while we can, while we've got some warm weather here still. But Nolan, it seems like you guys are doing a lot over there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners as well. I think I'm seeing almost weekly some kind of educational event that you're putting on online to teach savers and investors about a different important topic or aspect of planning. And it's really picking up steam. I think a lot of people have really enjoyed those.
Yeah, it's been something that, this technology gap that's kind of been closed over the past year and a half. It's been something that we've really been able to utilize as a platform to continue to educate our clients. We treat education as the forefront of what we do here, teaching you about your money, teaching you about how different factors influence your retirement, and educating people has to be part of that. So, we've done one recently. I did one on new investments. Ron's got one coming up that's a little more pertinent to the show topics that we're going to go over today regarding income, and Nancy does some Medicare stuff. And yeah, we're doing more and more of them. It's been really nice to connect with prospects, with clients, with a bunch of different people in that way and teach them a little bit more about their money.
Well, if you'd like to find out about any of those educational opportunities, go to the website, cornerstone-rp.com. You can sign up there for the email newsletters to be put on those lists. You can follow them on social media, cornerstone-rp.com, Cornerstone Retirement Partners, or I guess it's at cornerstone-rp on any of the social media handles, not the .com, but on your favorite. And they've got a list. They are just about everywhere on social media, ladies and gentlemen. So follow Cornerstone Retirement Partners, and you will have the opportunity to tap into these resources, this education. They are there to help you make more informed decisions with your money, which obviously will determine the great extent of our financial future. So again, the easiest way, maybe just pick up the phone and give a call if you'd like to get a plan put together, or follow them on any of the social media or on their webpage, cornerstone-rp.com, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. And Nolan, you alluded to it, the topic for today's program, kind of all things retirement income. And when we talk specifically about retirement income, we have to acknowledge that this is a different aspect in planning than just traditional accumulation and growth and investing. There's many different considerations that we have to go through when we start withdrawing money and creating income.
For sure. We're going to talk about a lot of the bits and bobs and a lot of the more specifics of that. But there are a lot of questions that people have. I mean, you've been spending your entire working career, the past 20, 30, 40 years, just accumulating, trying to make your money grow, trying to get to this magic number of assets in your asset pool. And so now something that we're going to talk about today is how to address those, which accounts to maybe pull from first, common misconceptions or some rules to maybe abide by. So taking money out of your portfolio, it becomes critically important with retirement planning, especially regarding all the different assets that can be taxed that we don't know about.
Well, if we need to have income from these assets, Most of us do. We don't just survive on Social Security alone in most circumstances. We've got to have a plan for how to pull that all together, and a lot of different aspects go into that. But that is a great extent of what the Course to Retirement plan does cover. Your income, your investments, your taxes, healthcare, and legacy, all covered in that Course to Retirement plan that the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners will help you put together, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd like to get a customized, individual, specific plan for your situation, give them a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. But Nolan, I thought that a great way to start this topic and this conversation would be a recent article from The Street about Retirement Daily. 4 questions to ask your advisor about retirement income planning. So just the title acknowledges that retirement income is a different kind of planning. But the number one question that it encourages people to ask their planner, their advisor, when should I claim Social Security benefits? This is obviously a big one for the foundation of retirement income.
Sure. When to claim Social Security is critically important with retirement planning. A lot of times when I talk to people about Social Security, one of the things that I'll relate it to is a huge pile of money. I mean, think about something like a pension, that's guaranteed to pay you for the remainder of your retirement and your entire life. Well, if you cash out a pension and take it early, you get a pretty big reduction. Well, people are familiar with that concept, but people aren't necessarily familiar with the cash out principle or total estimated benefit principle of Social Security. If I claim at 62, if I claim at my full retirement age, or if I claim at age 70, how is that going to be different for me? A lot of times when people claim Social Security as early as they can at 62, they have to have some assets to support their lifestyle throughout their 60s in order to supplement that income. And, the same idea for those who wait until age 70, you need even more assets if you do plan on retiring early. When to claim Social Security is crucially important. Let's talk about Social Security taxation a little bit too. When you claim your Social Security, a lot of folks are not aware how different income impacts the taxation of that benefit. If all of your income is Social Security, you probably won't have to worry about taxes. But if you claim Social Security early and have very large IRA withdrawals to supplement that, you could very well be dragging some of your Social Security into your taxable income. So a lot of considerations, a lot of stuff to break down.
Spousal benefits, widow or widower benefits, longevity, age, the different types of retirement income that you can pull from other assets that can significantly impact your Social Security benefit. A lot goes into this that if we just think about, well, I'm going to run out and get it on the very first day at 62 that I'm eligible, or I'm going to wait till 70. We don't include some of these considerations, but Social Security is not in a vacuum. In order to make a well thought through and informed decision on this, Nolan, we have to include all of these other aspects into that decision.
Right. And that's what we do when we're trying to go through and navigate the Social Security landscape, is taking all of these different things into consideration. What we don't want you to do with Social Security is leave money on the table. You want to make the most out of what you've worked for and what you've earned over your working career. So to know how to draw that benefit and how it works alongside the rest of the assets that you live off of is crucially important. You just need to know where your money's coming from, how to take money out, how it's going to be taxed. And I think it's important that your advisor go through an analysis with you, go through the options, say, okay, if you claim at 62 and your spouse claims at age 70, or vice versa, or you both claim at full retirement age, how would it impact your other investments? So it's really important to talk about Social Security, not only to develop a plan for claiming, but how to project how it's going to impact the rest of your investments and the rest of your income sources over the next 10, 20, or 30 years.
Nolan, fair enough to say that if this conversation has been omitted, if we have not had this conversation with our advisor, that many of the important facts and aspects of planning for a successful retirement may have been overlooked?
Sure. A lot of people just don't even know how Social Security, ends. What happens to the Social Security income if you lose one spouse? What happens if you were married previously? What happens if you live for 40 years? So, all of these things, it's important to at least know what will happen to your benefit, even if there's nothing you can do about it, just to prepare. I mean, that's what we talk about, is the planning process. How do you plan for Social Security? How do you plan for your income?
Now, this is part of the course to retirement plan that you put together for savers and investors there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners. You address this Social Security as part of that income portion of the plan.
Correct. Yeah. And so not only the Social Security and that's impact on the plan, but where your other income needs to come from, how much you're expected to pay in taxes, how much you're expected to pay in healthcare if you retire early. All of those things. Social Security is a huge impact. I mean, it makes up more than half of all retirement income for retirees right now. So it's a very important system, and it's important to know how it works.
And while I started the conversation saying that it's not all of what many people live off of, it is all of what many people live off as well. And so regardless of what side you are on with that, if you are producing the majority of your intended retirement income from your personal assets, or if Social Security constitutes all of what you need, you still want to make the best decisions with it possible and maximize this important source of retirement income because it will ultimately put less strain and stress and reliance on the personal savings and the assets that you have worked so hard to accumulate. So again, if for no other reason, if no other fact is going to play into your planning, you at least need to educate yourself on Social Security, and the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners, they are there as a resource for you to provide that education. Give them a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Nolan, the next question that this article encourages people to ask their advisor about their retirement income: how will taxes impact my retirement? This is obviously a big one. It always has been a big one. Right now, maybe even a bigger topic of concern than it typically has been or traditionally has been.
Right. And just think about what we're going through as a nation here. Everybody's kind of aware of what happens when money gets printed. Eventually that money needs to be paid back. We were worried about taxes going up prior to all of the stimulus. We've been worried about taxes going up since the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that had scheduled tax raises in it back in 2017 or 2018. And so preparation for taxes and how that may impact you long term is going to become incredibly important. It seems like the government, in all of their wisdom, when they cut taxes and when they cut corporate expenditures, the trickle-down effect doesn't really seem to benefit us all that much directly, right? But when they raise taxes on corporations and raise taxes on the wealthy, it sure does seem like everything is raised for us. So when we talk about taxation in retirement, we're not only talking about what is your tax bracket, but we're talking about, okay, if you claim Social Security, how is that going to be taxed? If you have long-term gains in your accounts, how are those going to be taxed? Based on your income, is your Medicare cost going to go up? So a variety of different things can start to impact your retirement residually. It's just a big ripple effect if it's not planned for appropriately.
I saw a pretty scary chart from the Federal Reserve economic data, Nolan, recently. It showed that of all of the money currently in circulation, about 20% of it was put into circulation and created within the last 12 months. When we see that, and then we could go to another very scary resource, which is the usdebtclock.org, and you can see the numbers and the U.S. debt and the deficit just ticking away at a pretty astronomical rate. When we see all that, we've got to think that taxes could be going up into the future, which is a very different mindset, a shift in paradigm than when a lot of savers and investors first started preparing for retirement back 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, just think about the monetary environment. If we want to backtrack 30, 35 years or so, back when the majority of current retirees were starting their careers, you were in a totally different tax situation. The top marginal tax bracket was in the 60, 70, 80% range sometimes. Even your own tax brackets are probably twice of what they were today. I mean, the majority of retirees that I run into at this point are in the 10 or 12% bracket. I mean, very few hop into the 22% bracket. And so our taxes right now are lower than they have been historically. And if we're talking about stimulus and 20% of cash issuance and all of these things that are going to cause some inflationary pressures, taxes will probably have to go up alongside those. And so we would estimate, just given our best guess and the historical data, that taxes will likely go up in the future at some point. I mean, it's built into a regulation already. It's just how much at what point.
Well, even if they stay the same, in my mind, growth is the goal for my account. So while I'd rather have $200,000, I'd rather pay tax on $100,000. If my goal is to grow my investment over time and taxes stay the same, that leads to a likelihood, a probability that I end up paying more as a bill for that tax dollar in retirement out of the larger account that it has grown to. So again, considerations, big questions about retirement income that you absolutely should have conversations about with your advisor. Understand how these impacts are going to affect you, how these aspects of planning, taxes, Social Security. Another one, order of operations. This one reminded me of math class, old algebra class with please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Which order do you do first? Which operation? What account should I pull from and when is the question? And Nolan, that's another one that at Cornerstone Retirement Partners, you try to help your clients map out strategically how to optimize withdrawals when they're creating income, how and when to pull from each account.
Sure. And what we do is really try and identify the sources that you plan on living off of. Some people's retirement is just as simple as I'm going to claim Social Security that pays me my monthly income. I got my mailbox money and I have a little bit of extra money saved up from working, and I'm going to be good on that. And some people, it's a little more complicated, but not much, where they're just taking money out of a 401k and you've just been saving in one account for your entire working career. And so it's just Social Security and 401k. Well, there's a ton of other accounts that you can have. You can have pensions, inherited IRAs, Roth IRAs. You can have 403b accounts, brokerage accounts, just regular savings accounts. You can tap into home equity. You can do a variety of different things to generate income in retirement. So understanding, number one, how much money you need, but number two, where you're going to start taking that money from, especially in the first few years of retirement, is very important. You have to make sure that your taxes stay minimal, that your current income is maximized as much as it possibly can, and that you're leveraging opportunities to reduce your taxes long term. So whether that be converting money into a Roth IRA or just moving money from a regular IRA post-tax, I mean, me personally, I would rather pay taxes right now while they're on sale, and that's really what we're talking about right now.
A lot of strategies out there available to be more efficient with your money, but this one might be one to take advantage of, kind of seize the moment when opportunity knocks, ladies and gentlemen. And you can identify those opportunities better when you've got a plan in place and when you've got a relationship with an advisor, or in this case, a team of advisors who are watching the ball for you, who are paying attention in the moment to when those opportunities may arise. And if that's the kind of team that you'd like to have on your side and the kind of guidance and advice that you'd like to have with your planning, pick up the phone, give a call. The team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners would be happy to hear from you, happy to speak with you, have a complimentary review and strategy session, and even put that course to retirement plan together for you, with you. And you can talk about implementing it alongside with them, with their help and assistance and guidance. 616-301-2581, the number to call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581 to get your course to retirement put together. Nolan, number 4 question here on this list. It's a simple list. 4 questions to ask your advisor about retirement income planning. Number 4, how will a down market affect my retirement plans? Also, probably one that's on the minds of savers and investors looking back over the last decade. We have not seen this. We know sooner or later these down markets do come.
Right. And we have a good recent example of a down market. We think back towards the beginning of 2020 when the pandemic came through. it was short-lived. I mean, I think peak to trough, we were only about 6 weeks. So really, I mean, as far as declines go, a month and a half, not that bad. It took most people probably 4 or 5 months to completely recover. But one of the things that we talk about with people is these down markets and how it affects your plan. So if you went through the pandemic and went down and stayed invested and made your money back by September or October, no harm, no foul. You basically just lost 6 months worth of performance. But it's not that big of a deal if you're still working. However, let's say you retired on January 1st. And you took the traditional approach of, okay, I'm going to be moderate to moderately aggressively invested. Market's been doing really well, and I've been doing really well the past few years. You retire in January. If you're in a moderately aggressive portfolio, you probably went down 30 to 40% between February and April. So if you're still invested at that time and still taking money out of your portfolio at that time, you not only have to recover with the market, but you have to recover faster than the market to make up for the amount of withdrawals that you've been taking out. So that's what we talk about when we talk about down markets and how they may affect your retirement plans. If your entire goal is to withdraw from a 100% market-based portfolio and the market-based portfolio drops significantly in a short amount of time, that's something that can take a really, really long time to recover out of. And if you catch a really bad market like the dot-com bubble in early 2000s or like the housing crisis in 2008, sometimes you just do not recover if you're taking money out of your portfolio during that time. So it's important to know how the market might affect your portfolio. And if you're nervous about that or not willing to accept that risk, it's important to have a look at how you're invested too. If you can't deal with that risk, you shouldn't be invested like that.
For that reason, Nolan, is that a approach to creating retirement income that you would often suggest, just relying on the market to carry our accounts along?
So with some people, it works just fine. It's not typically my blanket recommendation because I understand that retirees oftentimes cannot deal with as much loss as they think they can. So it's important to have multiple hedges against a market-based portfolio, especially if you're sensitive to loss. So if you don't like the idea of going down 20, 30, 40%, and you are 100% invested in the market, that's not really a good plan for you. That's kind of just like having a dartboard and throwing darts at it once or twice a year and hoping that everything goes okay. So hoping is not a retirement plan. You want good 95 to 99% certainty that something's going to go your way rather than just gambling your retirement savings in a 100% market-based investment.
And there are other options or alternatives to that. Now, that being said, the market and investment in the market long term with the hope for growth has worked out very well for most people who have taken part and stuck with it and had a disciplined approach. Also, for those who have had a paycheck to support their lifestyle to weather ups and downs and downturns and ebbs and flows in the market. But because of that reason, when we walk away from the paycheck, the mindset, the paradigm, and the approach to the utilization and the reliance on the market probably should also be reviewed and reflected upon as well.
Well, right. And that just gets right back to the main principle of it is you're retired or you're close to retiring. You do not want to have a huge drop in your portfolio right when you retire or right before you retire or immediately after you retire. So depending on how you plan and depending on how you address risk, it's really important to minimize those downturns. I mean, we have really, really strong recency bias here. I mean, you talk about the last 10 years, the 11, 12 years coming out of the housing crisis. I mean, what a strong market we've had. I mean, a bad 2015, a bad 2018, depending on how you acted in 2020, it could have been a bad 2022. But I mean, 3 years in an 11 or 12-year period just doesn't seem like that much.
And in the
So,
grand scheme of things, I mean, you're talking about blips on the radar here, because each one of
right.
those years you said were bad years or down years. It was like there was a time period within a
Mhm.
12-month period where things were slightly down, but they bounced right back. And this market has been very resilient. That being said, they were pumping a whole lot of money into the
Yeah.
economy as well during that time.
Yeah, and there's going to be monetary influence. I mean, the Fed has indicated many times that they will try and corral inflation if it gets too high. I assume that they will try and relax on money printing, but there's still a lot of stimulus money that needs to be issued. So, I mean, this governmental monetary policy of just kind of being fast and loose with funds, I would expect to continue for at least a little while. But that does need to stop at some point. The cash cow has to stop. We cannot have unbridled lending and unbridled money printing. It's not good for an economy, even with tolerable inflation. So.
Well, I think any of us realize that, hey, we can float on debt for a little while, but then the payments start and the piper comes calling. And it seems like, as a nation, as a country, and really internationally with many other countries as well, debt has not been a serious issue that we have felt like we've needed to address. But I agree with you, Nolan. At some point, sooner or later, we've got to kind of tighten the purse strings a little bit. And what does that look like? What influence will have on the market when that occurs is something that you and I and all individual savers and investors do need to be paying attention to and thinking about. It's part of planning for that retirement. Today, we're specifically talking about your retirement income and your retirement income plan. And Nolan, we'll continue the conversation after the break. But before we go there, just to kind of reiterate here, there are some specific questions that savers and investors who have been working and earning money and saving toward their retirement accounts need to ask about being prepared when transitioning to withdrawing and creating income from those retirement accounts. It's really kind of a completely different ball game, or at least different halves of the same ball game.
Right. And those 4 questions, I mean, it's really just starting, I mean, that's how you start the retirement planning process. I mean, number 1, Social Security benefits. It's the majority of income for most retirees. So figuring out a strategy and claiming option is crucially important. Number 2, how will that be taxed, or how will the rest of my money be taxed in retirement? Not only Social Security, but everything else. Based on that taxation, which account should I pull from and when is number 3 on our list. So once you've kind of figured out the tax strategy and how your money is going to be impacted, how do you pull it? When do you pull it? And then lastly, if I am in a market-based portfolio, or I do have market-based assets in my portfolio, how will a down market affect my plans? If it's 1 or 2 months, maybe not that much, but what if it's a down market for 2 years? So to be prepared and to have reliable income, that's what we're talking about today, but that's what we talk about every day with our clients. How do we generate reliable income? How do we make sure that you have the money in your bank that you need each and every month from the assets that you've saved up?
Well, that comes from having that plan in place, and confidence in that is being able to rely on that plan, testing all of the different variables, thinking about the risks ahead of time. That is what the Course to Retirement plan will help you do and help you think through and have that confidence, which equates to a higher quality of life, ladies and gentlemen. Pick up the phone, give a call if you would like your Course to Retirement plan put together, assessing the income, the investments, the taxes, healthcare, legacy, all aspects of planning, including there. And if you would like to get that on a complimentary, no cost, no obligation basis, that's what the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners will do along with you. Similar plans, similar reviews can easily go upwards of $1,000 to several thousands of dollars. They don't want that cost to be an objection to get in the way of you having a plan. And they would like to introduce themselves to you. That's why they make this offer. That's the true value of being tuned into the radio program. Pick up the phone and give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Quick break. We'll be back. Talk a little bit more about retirement income planning and all the aspects that you need to be thinking through.
Cornerstone Retirement Partners presents Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Corser and Nolan Goslee. Cornerstone Retirement Partners are planning today for potential tomorrow. Visit cornerstone-rp.com for many valuable resources, including those mentioned on the show and other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
And welcome back into the program. This is your Course to Retirement. So glad to be joined by Nolan Goslee, one of the members of the team there, one of the partners at Cornerstone Retirement Partners. If you've got questions, if you've got concerns, if you've got any kind of financial issues that have been on your mind, or if you'd like to get your own individual customized Course to Retirement plan, pick up the phone and give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. On today's program, we have been talking specifically about creating that retirement income and the issues that we need to address when planning for a stable, secure, and confident financial future throughout retirement. Now, Nolan, this is really where the rubber meets the road. I mean, the creation of the retirement income kind of is a mathematical process, and figuring out how much we need to generate and then where to generate it from is filling in the unknowns, the algebra equation of retirement planning, if you will.
Right. I mean, it's A plus B equals X, and you just need to figure out what X is. You have income coming from a variety of sources in retirement. I mean, it can be pensions, Social Security, retirement assets, just savings that you have. But understanding where that money is coming from, understanding the risks associated with the money in different accounts, and then how to account for those risks so that you can give yourself the greatest chance to be successful in retirement. That's what income planning is. So determining the income gap, determining how much money you actually need from your assets. Yeah, that's where the rubber meets the road, for sure.
This is kind of like an analogy here, kind of building a house. And if I was to go in and build the house and say, oh, the front door is going to look beautiful, the windows are going to look great, the kitchen countertops are going to be fantastic, the roof, we're going to have this great roof line. But then the question is, well, what is it going to be built on? What is the foundation going to be? All of those other things may not matter so much if the foundation is not secure and steady and we can count and rely on it.
Yeah, as in building the foundation of the retirement plan is probably the most important part. And the foundation is your income. Your income is the foundation of a retirement plan because everything else is based upon it. So if you need a certain amount of dollars per month, that gives you a general idea of how much risk or where you would have to place your assets in order to generate that much income. If you need a 10 or 15% withdrawal from your portfolio every year, you're probably going to be invested much more aggressively than somebody that only needs 3 or 4% of their income from their retirement portfolio. So yeah, laying that foundation for income, understanding where the income is coming from, and understanding what the biggest threats to that income is. That's the foundation. You're pouring the foundation for a successful retirement at that point.
Have you ever experienced where maybe we miscalculated how much we would need for retirement? I come in and say, hey, my expenses, my budget, they generally run me $3,000 a month. And then we sort of go through the planning process and discover that is not an accurate number, and we need to make some adjustments and plan for something different.
All right. And I mean, I think that happens for a couple different reasons. Number one, people expect retirement to be less expensive than working. A lot of people expect that. And then a lot of people find out, well, it's my first couple years of retirement. I want to be able to enjoy myself. So maybe it's not going to be all that less expensive, and you're going to have to generate a little bit more income than you thought. Or people retire early and they don't account in the extra cost of healthcare for those few years prior to, qualifying for Medicare. And so there's usually just something that hasn't been considered, whether it be healthcare costs, costs, whether it be Social Security taxation, whether it be, a variety of different other expenses that you might be overlooking. We start with a budget. You have to start with a budget. You have to know how much you need every single month to take care of your cash flow needs.
Well, again, if you want to calculate this out, Nolan, that's like a process. I remember a few years ago, it's been several years ago now, and I may be dating myself with this one, where the commercial was, what is your retirement number? And it showed people walking around with these big green numbers over their head. It seemed like everybody was, $1 million, 1.5, $2 million, but they never addressed how to calculate that number. This process, looking back at this, we don't want to miscalculate that. We don't want to underestimate those expenses and therefore what it would take to generate them. Kind of like the carpenter, we need to measure twice and cut once. And there is a process, a math formula for figuring out what that number should be.
Right. The formula kind of needs a base, and this base will always be budgeting. Again, a lot of people have a rough idea of what they expect retirement costs to actually be, but before you go and sit down and actually look at your budget and what you spend money on, you're never going to be able to figure out what your retirement number is. You have to know how much you need to live on each and every year. So once you've budgeted, you have a general idea of how much you need each month in order to maintain your lifestyle. Well, from that number, you can subtract Social Security. You can subtract pensions. You can subtract basically everything that's considered a guaranteed source of income to determine what your income gap actually is. So let's say you need $4,000 per month in retirement in order to be successful. You have $1,500 from one Social Security, $1,000 from another, and a $500 pension per month. Well, that means you only need $1,000 per month from your other assets. $12,000 per year. We multiply that by 25, and that gives us a good idea of the capital amount you would need in order to generate that. So now, again, it was pretty quick to
why 25? What's the magic 25 there?
Yeah.
So is that how long we're expected to live once we retire?
Yeah. So that 25 is a simple way of doing a more complicated math equation. So this retirement scheme or concept is based on something called the 4% withdrawal rate. So the theory, and this is, a few decades old, but the theory is if you take 4% out of your portfolio each year and you're invested in a 60% stock, 40% bond, or 60% risky, 40% safer portfolio, you have reasonable certainty that you're not going to outlive your retirement assets. Now, the 4% rule works for some, doesn't work for others. It has to do with timing a little bit. You can be selective with how you use that, but this is a good loose guideline for how to do that. So I mentioned you have $12,000 per year in an income gap. You need to generate $1,000 per month. Well, if you divide that by 4%, that's the same thing as multiplying by 25. And that's how you get to the capital amount of what you would probably actually need in order to generate that retirement income. So you need $10,000 per year, multiply by 25, you need $250,000 in your pot of money. And you can work backwards from your budgeted number. It all starts with a budget, but yeah, that's a good kind of template of a rule, and then you need to build the retirement portfolio on top of that concept. You can reliably get 4% from here, you can't from here, and this is how we're going to adjust your risks on an ongoing basis.
So kind of a back of the napkin math for figuring out what that retirement number is or should be for you. And then there are lots of different tools out there in the financial world, Nolan. You and the saver, the investor client that you are working with, sort of figure out the pros and cons of what tools to use to generate that. And the 4% rule kind of gives us a guideline for a realistic expectation of what a portfolio should be able to generate.
Yeah, and you said it right. I mean, it's a guideline, and a guideline changes over time too. If you're living off of a 4% rule, but your portfolio only nets 3% gain for the first 5 years of your retirement, you're going to start tapping into your principal. If that's not accounted for when you're doing your planning process, you can start to harm your retirement. And so, yeah, it's important. Number one, to use rules, but number two, to be able to adjust them. I mean, they are rules. They're not meant to be broken, but there are so many rules when it comes to retirement that one may work for a time period and another might work for the next time period. And you just kind of have to adjust and be nimble on an ongoing basis.
Is it going to change for conditions as well, though? I mean, like the speed limit on 96 may be different than the speed limit in a school zone. We are adjusting for changing conditions, and likewise, does our cash flow rate or what we're withdrawing need to change based on the conditions around us or what tools we're using?
So I think it can. Now, for some people, I don't know that it would need to, but I think for a lot of people, you need to be able to. I think that's probably the most important thing is the ability to change the plan or the ability to modify 2 to 3 years from now. If you're planning on withdrawing 4%, but you have a really, really tough couple years in the market-based portion of your portfolio, it's prudent to have money somewhere else that you can maybe draw on when the market-based portion of your portfolio is doing very poorly. That way, you don't need to recover as much on the back end or take more risk on the back end to get back over that performance hurdle. And so, yeah, tons of people, when they're retired or when they're retiring, set up their retirement plans so that if you encounter a huge risk or huge loss in one area, you can tweak it and start taking more money from another different space. So creating the plan, creating the options, and creating that flexibility is critically important with retirement planning.
Again, if you would like to map out your retirement income plan, make sure you've got that foundation in place, evaluate the different tools, the options, the strategies available to optimize and maximize retirement income or minimize the amount of volatility that could impact that retirement income. That is what the Course to Retirement plan is all about, or at least an aspect of it. They talk about several different aspects in planning. Your income is one, your investments, taxes, healthcare, legacy. These are all covered in that Course to Retirement plan. And if you'd like to get that put together, pick up the phone and give Cornerstone Retirement Partners a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. So Nolan, after we've sort of gone through this process and we've evaluated the 4% rule, we've evaluated the tools that we're going to use, we have identified the amount that we are going to sort of need through that reverse 4% rule formula to produce our income and set that aside. Have we essentially gone through a process where we've identified baseline subsistence essentials with our dollars, and then what's left over discretionary that we can do all of the things that we thought retirement would be about and enjoy our life?
Most times, yes. Most times when you have set money aside for income and you've secured guaranteed income sources and you've made sure that your basic income needs are covered, your cash flow is covered each and every month, then you can take the extra money that you have and go play with it. It's one of your goals, or should be one of your goals in retirement, to enjoy the money that you've saved up. We talk about withdrawal rate risk with people all the time, that they might be taking money out way too aggressively. Well, there's also the risk that you don't take money out enough or don't enjoy your early years of retirement when you actually can. And so it's really important to make sure that your paycheck, your income, your monthly income, your subsistence is taken care of, because that's what gives you the freedom to use maybe a growth bucket of money or money that's really meant to be, kind of aggressively invested and give you those big years where maybe you can profit, take money out, go on a cruise, go on a vacation, use some of it for fun. That's very important, but you can't really have the fun money if you don't set up the I don't know, I'm not going to call it non-fun money because retirement's still enjoyable, but it's not your play money. So,
but not to put words in your mouth, but what I'm hearing from you, if I can maybe translate, and then you can agree or give me some qualifications on this. But if we set up that retirement income plan, then we can more comfortably continue to pursue an investment philosophy for growth with a portion of our assets.
Right. And it's buckets, it's buckets of money and what money does. We talk about the things money does and doesn't do on an ongoing basis. So yeah, I mean, some money is meant to generate income and some money is meant for longer term growth. Things money doesn't do is it can't usually do more than a couple things at once. We talk about bank money. Bank money is safe. Bank money is liquid, but it doesn't grow very much. So if your plan is to have
certainly doesn't, not right now.
Yeah,
no.
Right. Not right now. My 0.1% in my savings account is really I write to my parents about it every single week. It's very exciting.
Well, so bringing up another point, I mean, this 4% rule was actually incepted several decades ago when interest rates were much higher. And then the generation of savers and investors even before that may have experienced times where they could get double-digit rates of return on their bank money. A CD paying 10 or 12%. Has that made the old strategies, the old paradigms of protect principal and live off of the interest, or even the 4% cash flow rule, as it was called, has that put that in kind of a different light and made that much more difficult to actually achieve?
I believe so. I believe that we're in what's called a yield-starved environment right now, and it's very, very difficult to get any type of yield from any investment. And bank money is traditionally where people used to go for a moderately conservative yield that they might be able to live off of in retirement. But we kind of talked about rates already, right? My savings account with 0.1%, and I'm lucky if I can get much more than 1 or 2% in any individual account.
Because of that, Nolan, do you think that people are being pushed to take more risk than they once did, kind of chasing those returns that even safer alternatives once could generate for us?
It seems like it in a lot of cases. A lot of folks did live off of the expectation of a 4% rule. And if your 4% rule also involved heavily investing in bank money, CDs, money market accounts, savings accounts, checking accounts, your 4% rule might be closer to 1% at this point. I mean, that in reality is probably going to be the best yield you can get off of your money in aggregate if you're just using bank products. And unless you have a huge portfolio, 1% income usually isn't going to touch what you need on an ongoing basis.
Another thing that we need to consider, and we've been hearing it, we've been seeing it, we've experienced it firsthand, but we've only seen it maybe for a short period of time here in recent memory, and that is this inflation. Actually, I heard a term reflation the other day, and that was kind of the first time that I had heard reflation. I guess the economy is reflating, but for us, our expenses never went down. So it really is inflation that we are dealing with right now. It's not new, but it's maybe more noticeable now than it has been in recent memory. That's something that we need to plan for when we're talking about retirement income as well.
For sure. And when we talk about inflation, it's easy to see things, up front, the cost of lumber, the cost of gas, everything like that. But long-term inflation is based on CPI. The CPI is just a basket of goods for the consumer. This inflationary pressure is going to be ongoing. We expect inflation is going to likely continue to be maybe in the 2 to 3, maybe a little more than that percent range. With inflation going up, maybe Social Security goes up along with it, but not usually as fast as inflation does. Medicare costs usually go up with Social Security costs, so you don't really net that much more anyway. So yeah, inflation, interest rate pressures, all of those things are going to be pretty big risks to fixed income for the next 5 to 10 years, probably. And fixed income, most notably being bonds for a lot of people, but it affects other fixed income too. It affects loan rates. It affects mortgage rates. It affects a lot of different stuff.
Once again, all considerations that you need to have thought through and formulated your plans for as you are talking about retirement income, creating income, taking withdrawals from those retirement accounts that you have worked so hard to save into, to invest, and to build and grow over your working career. Those are going to be what provides for anything over and above Social Security and or pensions, and creates the ability for you to fill that income gap throughout retirement. We've got to plan strategically for how best to predictably, durably be able to depend on the income that those dollars can create. You retire with a finite amount of money. You've got an unknown amount of time that you need to make it last for. And that's why we see so many concerns, so much worry about running out of money in retirement. But if we've got a plan in place, we can address many of the risks that could cause or contribute to that risk. So again, that's why the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners makes the offer to help you put together your course to retirement. If you'd like to get that plan in place, addressing income, first and foremost, the top priority in retirement, addressing investments, taxes, healthcare, legacy, pick up the phone, give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. You can follow them on social media almost anywhere, on your favorite platform at Cornerstone-RP or at Cornerstone Retirement Partners. You can also go online to their website directly and link to all of their social platforms, cornerstone-rp.com, or again, just give a call, 616-301-2581. As we kind of turn the corner toward home base here, Nolan, in our program, talking about retirement income, there comes a time where those that may not even need or want to take withdrawals from certain retirement accounts are required to. It's certainly not everybody who's going to fall into this, but when we get to that point, we better be pretty strategic with how the government is forcing and mandating us to take those RMDs and those distributions.
Right. And that's something that catches some people by surprise sometimes, I think, is just that there are mandated withdrawals from retirement accounts. When we talk about this, we're talking usually about traditional IRAs and traditional 401ks, pre-tax retirement accounts. But this RMD, the required minimum distribution, it's based on, the ending balance of these accounts from the year prior. It's basically the year that you turn 72, the IRS is going to start mandating that you take money out of these accounts. Well, if you have a couple good pensions and a couple Social Securities and don't have any other income needs, these required minimum distributions can kind of be a pain, especially if they're generating more taxable income. And so one of the things that we try and do or try and focus on an ongoing basis is management of these RMDs. So if you do need them, how's the best way to take them out of your account? Beginning of the year, end of the year? Do you take it out when your account's very low? Do you take it out when your account's very high? So on and so forth. Do you take it and donate it so that you can get a tax deduction? Sometimes if you don't need the money, your accountant or CPA may recommend that you do that. It can reduce your current income. It makes your RMD negligible and can actually save you some tax money on an ongoing basis. So yeah, these mandated requirements at the age of 72, the year that you turn 72, there are a lot of different ways that you can approach that. But that's part of the planning process too, is having a good idea when you start retirement of, okay, this is when I have to start taking money out. Am I going to be satisfying this based on my withdrawals, or do I need to come up with a plan for how to handle these assets long term?
And it's not a universal take it January 2nd or take it December 29th. There really is. It's going to be individual, and maybe having a relationship with an advisor or team of advisors there, like what Grand Rapids area savers and investors are able to have with you and your team at Cornerstone Retirement Partners, Nolan. Maybe you can help them identify the best strategies or timely opportunities for when to take those RMDs.
Yeah, and I mean, that's that's kind of what we do, timely strategies, what's appropriate now, where do we estimate things are going to be long term. So yeah, coming up with a strategy for it. How are the required minimum distributions going to be handled? Where are they going to go? If you want to convert money from an IRA over into a Roth, you have to take out your RMD before you do that, and there are little tiny rules and a lot of different caveats that you have to make sure that you fall in line with when you're handling your RMDs. Where can that money go? Where can't it go? What can and can't it do?
And I do want to make mention really quickly, you mentioned 72, but people may be still familiar with hearing 70 and a half. Now, maybe it's well known at this point that has changed, but that has changed. It's no longer 70 and a half. Now it's 72, unless you were already taking it at 70 and a half, and then you got to stick by those rules. So always changing rules and laws and requirements that you guys that's your job to stay on top of, right?
Yep. And it's always enjoyable. There always seems to be a new regulation to to keep up with and one more piece of paper to sign. So.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like somebody on your side to be on your team to help you plan, or to help you recognize when those rules change, or when there are opportunities to be more strategic or efficient with your money, or to help you plan how to create that retirement income, to map out which accounts to use, when to draw from them, how to make the most out of Social Security, how to pay the least amount in taxes, how to make sure that market downturns don't dramatically impact your outlook for retirement, pick up the phone, give a call. That is what the Course to Retirement plan will help you navigate, help you learn more about, be more informed, make better decisions with your money. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. The team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners looking forward to helping you be more informed, make those better decisions by having that plan in place. And once again, similar plans could easily go upwards of $1,000 to several thousands of dollars. They make that available to you with no cost, no obligation. All you need to do is pick up the phone. That's the value of being tuned into this program. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Good information on the program as always, Nolan. We appreciate your time and your guidance. Thank you for being the resource for Grand Rapids area savers and investors as they are thinking about creating retirement income.
Well, it's a pleasure as always. Thank you guys so much for listening to the show today. Hopefully we were able to solve a couple of your questions about the income gap and income planning. And if you have any other questions, just give us a call at the office. We look forward to talking to you.
616-301-2581. They're looking forward to hearing from you soon, talking to you next week here on the program. Another great way, follow them on social media or visit the website, cornerstone-rp.com, cornerstone-rp.com, or one more time, that phone number, 616-301-2581. Take care, folks.
Tune into Cornerstone Retirement Partners' full radio program, Your Course to Retirement, Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock at News Radio WOOD, or visit cornerstone-rp.com for many valuable resources, including those mentioned on this show and other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor.
Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group is solely an indication that the financial advisor has attended training provided by Ed Slott and Company, passed biannual examinations on material covered at conferences and in webinars, and met other membership requirements, and does not constitute an endorsement of any kind. Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group members pay a fee for the educational programs that allow them to be included in the Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group. Membership does not guarantee investment success. Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services.
Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals or growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes.